Jean Grey can enter your mind. She can see things you never told anyone. She can manipulate what you perceive. And in Spider-Man: Brand New Day, we discover something even more terrifying. She can move between people, take control of them, use their bodies, and turn some of the most dangerous people in the Marvel Universe into weapons. Even Hulk isn't automatically safe. Even Frank Castle isn't automatically safe. But then there is Peter Parker, because somehow, when Jean reaches for Spider-Man's mind, Peter can feel her coming. And throughout much of Brand New Day, that single ability makes him the one person Jean Grey cannot simply remove from the board. So what exactly is happening? Has Spider-Man suddenly developed psychic immunity? Is his spider sense powerful enough to stop an Omega-level telepath? Or did Marvel just quietly reveal that Peter Parker's mutation is becoming something far more powerful than we've ever seen before? Because the answer may completely change how powerful this version of Spider-Man actually is. Nexus Lore. Let's break it down. The mystery is established surprisingly early. Damage Control realizes that New York is dealing with something it can't properly see or contain. People are being psychically manipulated. Jean can move through minds almost like they're doorways, and conventional strength means almost nothing against that kind of enemy. You can't punch someone who isn't physically standing in front of you. You can't outrun an attack occurring in your own consciousness. That's exactly what makes Jean so dangerous. But Peter is different. Before the movie's release, the trailer even had William Metzger tell Spider-Man, "You're the only one who is immune to it. You're the only one who can sense it." And after the film reveals Sadie Sink's character to be Jean Grey, that statement suddenly becomes much more important. Notice the wording, not simply Peter can resist her, he can sense her. That distinction may explain everything. People sometimes misunderstand spider sense. It isn't simply Peter having really good reflexes. His reflexes are incredible, but spider sense is something else. Marvel describes the ability as an internal warning system that alerts Peter to approaching danger and can even tell him the general direction from which that danger is coming. Peter often reacts before he consciously understands what the threat is. We've already watched the MCU push this concept surprisingly far. Remember No Way Home? Doctor Strange separates Peter's astral form from his physical body. Peter's conscious mind is outside his body, yet his body continues reacting. And there is that strange visual effect around Peter's head. His spider sense appears to be operating at a level deeper than ordinary conscious thought. Then there's Norman Osborn. Peter doesn't see Green Goblin take control. Nobody announces it. Nothing visibly changes at first. Peter simply stops. Something feels wrong. And within seconds, he realizes that the Goblin personality has returned. That scene becomes much more significant after Brand New Day, because Peter's spider sense apparently doesn't only recognize something is about to hit me, it can recognize something that should not be here is here. Now, consider how Jean's ability works in Brand New Day. She's not simply throwing psychic energy at Peter like a projectile. She's attempting to interact with consciousness itself. With ordinary people, Jean has an enormous advantage. The victim doesn't know she's coming. There is no physical sound, no visible attacker, no punch to dodge. By the time the person understands something is wrong, Jean may already be inside. But Peter has something those people don't, an alarm system that doesn't require his conscious mind to identify the threat. Jean reaches toward Peter. His spider sense detects danger, and Peter becomes aware of her presence. That could be why Jean makes such a big deal about Peter being able to see her, not literally with his eyes. Peter can perceive the psychic intruder, and once Peter knows Jean is there, controlling him becomes dramatically harder. Think about it this way. Jean normally enters a building with no security system. Peter's mind has an alarm that activates before she gets through the door. And this is where we have to make an important distinction. Spider-Man is not traditionally immune to telepathy. That would dramatically change Marvel's power hierarchy. Comic book Jean Grey is on an entirely different level. Marvel officially describes Jean as an Omega-level telepath, capable of reading thoughts, projecting thoughts into other minds, creating psychic links, manipulating physical functions through mind control, creating illusions, and projecting consciousness onto the astral plane. We're talking about one of the strongest telepaths Marvel has. Peter does not normally walk around with complete immunity to characters like Jean Grey or Professor X, so Brand New Day isn't necessarily telling us Spider-Man beats telepathy. It's telling us something much narrower. This version of Peter can detect Jean's method of psychic intrusion, and that difference matters, because detecting an attack and being infinitely resistant to that attack are not the same thing. Spider sense can warn Peter about a bullet. That doesn't make Peter bulletproof. Likewise, spider sense sensing psychic manipulation doesn't necessarily mean no telepath could ever overpower him. But there's another piece to this puzzle. Peter's powers are changing. That is one of the central threads running through Brand New Day. His spider biology becomes increasingly unstable. His abilities intensify. His body begins moving further away from ordinary human biology, and eventually, Peter even develops organic webbing as his mutation progresses. Contemporary coverage of the film specifically notes that Peter's evolving arachnid DNA heightens his abilities and senses. That may mean we're not looking at exactly the same spider sense Peter had in Homecoming. His entire sensory system could be evolving. And if Peter's danger sense was already powerful enough to detect threats operating on a psychic level, what happens when that ability becomes stronger? Maybe Peter isn't gaining telepathy resistance as a completely separate superpower. Maybe his existing spider sense is simply becoming sensitive enough to detect threats operating on a psychic level. And Brand New Day gives us a massive clue that this is exactly what's happening. Because later, Peter's ability to detect Jean changes. This may be the strongest evidence in the entire movie. As Peter's mutation becomes unstable, his powers stop functioning normally. And during one sequence, Jean begins communicating with him through different people. Earlier, Peter had been incredibly good at identifying where Jean was. Now, he struggles. He knows she's nearby, but he no longer reliably determines which person she's occupying. Viewers noticed the connection almost immediately after the film's release. When Peter's altered powers disrupt his spider sense, his ability to track Jean's psychic presence appears to disappear with it. That is huge, because if Peter's resistance came from completely unrelated psychic immunity, his malfunctioning spider sense shouldn't matter. But if spider sense was the thing allowing him to perceive Jean, everything fits. Spider sense working, Peter detects Jean. Spider sense disrupted, Peter loses track of Jean. That doesn't feel accidental. And now we can answer one of the strangest power scaling questions in the movie. How can Jean manipulate Hulk but struggle with Spider-Man? Because physical strength is almost irrelevant here. Hulk may be vastly stronger than Peter. He may be tougher. He may be capable of producing infinitely more destructive force, but none of those abilities automatically tell him that someone is approaching his consciousness. It's the wrong defense for the wrong attack. Imagine two fortresses. The first fortress has walls 100 feet thick, but its gates are unlocked. The second fortress has thinner walls, but an alarm sounds the moment anyone approaches. Against a tank, you'd choose fortress number 1. Against an invisible infiltrator, suddenly fortress number 2 has the advantage. That's Peter. His advantage against Jean isn't superior psychic power, it's detection. Jean's greatest weapon is entering someone's mind without them understanding what's happening. Spider-Man removes the element of surprise. But there is another possibility. Peter's changing biology may be doing more than strengthening his spider sense. Jean's telepathy in this movie may interact with the human nervous system in a specific way, and Peter increasingly isn't biologically ordinary. Remember what damage control says. Peter isn't merely difficult to control, he's described as immune. And the same mutation giving Peter increasingly spider-like characteristics is repeatedly emphasized throughout the story. Pre-release analysis also connected his unusual immunity to his changing DNA and enhanced spider sense. That gives us two mechanisms that may actually work together. His mutated brain could be harder for Jean to interface with, while spider sense actively alerts him whenever she attempts it. Biological incompatibility plus precognitive detection. And if that's what Marvel is building toward, Peter Parker has just received one of the strangest upgrades we've ever seen from a live-action Spider-Man.
Now comes the dangerous question. If Jean can't easily control Peter, what about Professor X, Emma Frost, the Phoenix Force? And this is where we should avoid taking the feat too far. Peter being unusually resistant to the inexperienced Jean we meet in Brand New Day does not automatically mean Peter can defeat every telepath in Marvel. Jean herself is still developing. This isn't necessarily Jean Grey at the absolute height of her comic book abilities. And this definitely isn't full Phoenix Jean. Marvel's comic version of Jean is considered one of its greatest telepaths, with her powers becoming exponentially greater when connected to the Phoenix Force. A fully developed Jean might simply possess enough psychic power to overwhelm Peter despite his warning system. Spider sense might tell him she's coming. That doesn't necessarily mean he could stop her, which makes their future encounters much more interesting, because eventually Jean Grey is going to become stronger, much stronger. The question is whether spider sense evolves with her. And there's one final detail I don't think we should ignore. No Way Home may have foreshadowed all of this years ago. Doctor Strange separated Peter Parker's consciousness from his body. Peter should have been helpless. Instead, his body continued responding. Strange himself seemed confused at what was happening. At the time, it was mostly presented as another strange manifestation of spider sense. But Brand New Day gives that moment new context. Maybe Peter's spider sense exists at a level beneath conscious thought, something deeply connected to his nervous system, something that continues operating even when ordinary consciousness has been displaced. And if that's true, Jean isn't simply fighting Peter Parker when she enters his mind. She's fighting something instinctive, something biological, something that reacts before Peter himself even knows he's in danger. The spider. So why can't Jean Grey control Spider-Man? The movie never gives us one definitive technical explanation, but the evidence points strongly towards spider sense combined with Peter's evolving spider mutation. Jean's biggest advantage is attacking the mind without warning. Peter's greatest power is being warned about danger before he consciously understands it, and Brand New Day appears to have pushed that ability into entirely new territory. Peter isn't necessarily stronger than Jean. He isn't necessarily a superior psychic, and he isn't automatically immune to every form of telepathy. He's something much more inconvenient. He can feel her coming. And against someone whose entire strategy depends on entering your mind unseen, that may be the perfect counter. But here's the scary part. The Jean Grey we just met is only beginning. If she eventually becomes the Jean Grey comic readers know, or worse, if the Phoenix ever finds her, Spider-Man's psychic alarm system may not be enough, and Peter Parker may eventually discover that sensing danger and being powerful enough to stop it are two completely different things. This is Nexus Lore, and I'll see you in the next one.